Good afternoon.
President Biden says the U.S. stands prepared to respond if Russia invades Ukraine.
This is about more than just Russia and Ukraine. It's about standing for what we believe in.
Russia claims it's beginning to withdraw some of its forces from along the Ukraine border, but the U.S. says it's yet to see any signs of de-escalation.
We have not yet verified the Russian military units are returning to their home bases. Indeed, our analysts indicate that they remain very much in a threatening position.
The U.S. official tells CBS News that Russia has now moved rocket launchers and long-range artillery into firing positions. Meanwhile, Ukraine says it's come under a cyber attack on some government agencies, as well as Ukraine's largest bank. It's not yet clear if Russia is behind the attacks. The FBI and the Department of Homeland Security held a call Monday warning law enforcement, the military, and others to be prepared for potential Russian cyber attacks that could come if Russia invades Ukraine.
If Russia attacks the United States or our allies through asymmetric means, like disruptive cyber attacks against our companies or critical infrastructure, we are prepared to respond. But we're moving in lockstep with our NATO allies and partners to deepen our collective defense against threats in cyberspace.
Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin is in Belgium for a meeting with NATO allies. He'll also visit with U.S. troops deployed to Lithuania and Poland during his European trip.
President Biden also warned that if Russia does invade Ukraine, Americans can expect disruptions in their lives, including higher gas prices. The price of oil is already above $90 a barrel, the highest it's been since 2014. The main cause of this recent increase is the high cost of crude oil. Russia produces more than 1/10 of the world's oil supply, so any military action by Russia in Ukraine could certainly send the price of oil over $100 a barrel. AAA reports that the national average of the price of gasoline jumped to $3.49 in the last week alone. That's 19 cents more than just a month ago and nearly $1 more than a year ago. The average cost in North Dakota is currently around $3.11 a gallon. The average here in Fargo is about $3.29. Trucks and other vehicles in Canada are rolling out of a southern Alberta town and ending a blockade that paralyzed a U.S. border crossing into Montana for more than 2 weeks. The convoy left this morning after Prime Minister Justin Trudeau invoked emergency powers to try to break the siege. Protesters had been restricting access to the crossing in Alberta since January 29th in a demonstration against COVID-19 vaccine mandates and broader health restrictions. Just days ago, authorities arrested 13 people and seized guns and ammunition at the Montana crossing. And under the emergency powers, the government would be able to ban blockades at border crossings, airports, and in Ottawa, and force tow trucks to move the big rigs out of intersections and neighborhoods. Now, a short time ago, the Royal Mounted Canadian Police sent a tweet that they are working toward a resolution with demonstrators. They expect the Emerson port to be reopened soon. Sure nice to see temps climb into the 20s this afternoon. Chief Meteorologist Hutch Johnson is here with word on where they might be tonight. Hutch?
Thanks so much. We are going to see change once again. Remember, we're on this wild roller coaster ride, and every day we're going to see changes over the next week or so. Taking a look at the Devil's Lake area camera from our Home of Economy location, from time to time we're seeing even a few flakes drift through that sky line. Here is a look at what we have taking place as we speak with the radar, and it does look like we have up near Winnipeg some more appreciable snow. Notice a little bit more near Lake Sakakawea heading into the Devil's Lake Basin. That's associated with this blue line called a cold front, and that's part of the change many of us will see as well. So snow along the international border that has moved through northeast parts of North Dakota, another batch on the way, and then the wind picks up as we undergo a little bit of a wind shift tonight. Closer look at that radar. New Rockford, you're going to see some flakes moving in, as well as much of central Wells County taking place now. Behind the cold front, you guessed it, cooler air on the way. It's in the teens up there, so Mike, those 20s not going to last long. It's in the 30s down south. Little impact to roads, some snow-covered roads in northeast North Dakota and portions of west central Minnesota, as well as areas south of Fargo. Your planner tonight shows temperatures decreasing. The wind really picks up as we get through the deep overnight. For some, you'll have some blowing snow. We'll show you where that'll be. And we have some bigger impacts to our weather coming later in the forecast period, including a first alert weather day. We'll have details on that in a minute.
We'll want to know about that. Thanks, Hutch. New at 4, we have details that have surfaced about a late-night attack last week involving a man with a machete chasing or crashing his vehicle into cars. It happened last Tuesday night at PetroServe off of University Drive. Police say Nathaniel Graywind was high on meth, smashed out a car window, and when that driver took off, Graywind chased him, ultimately ramming the vehicle. Graywind returned to the gas station and rammed into a second vehicle, then smashed out its windshield. He also threatened a third person inside there with a machete. He was arrested on terrorizing, aggravated reckless endangerment, as well as DUI charges. A committee has proposed an initiative to set term limits in North Dakota. If passed, the initiative would apply to the governor and legislators. The committee has submitted just over 1,400 petitions with approximately 46,000 signatures to the Secretary of State's office for review and certification. Now, to get the measure on the November ballot, the petitions must contain at least 31,000 signatures. The Secretary of State has until March 22nd to determine whether the measure will be placed on the ballot. Minneapolis teachers are voting on whether they should go on strike. Teachers in St. Paul will do the same later this week. While the result of the votes won't immediately lead to a strike, it does give the teachers the option to authorize one. More mental health resources, smaller class sizes, and increased pay are among the demands from the union.
In addition to this legal process, we've been petitioning, rallying, marching on the governor's mansion, going out to school board meetings, and we haven't seen the change we need from our district leaders.
The district says that they're focused on reaching a fair, equitable, and sustainable agreement. If each union does approve a strike, it'll notify its district and wait a 10-day cooling off period first. Schools are already warning families of what the strike would mean for students, and they're putting a plan in place if the union approves a strike. The results are expected on Thursday night. Minnesota Senate Republicans are pitching a parental bill of rights to empower parents by giving them more access to curriculum at their children's schools. The bills would require access to the class syllabi within the first 2 weeks of the start of the classes and provide all instruction materials without cost to parents who want them. Teachers are concerned that the requirements would pile on more duties for an already exhausted workforce and create an opening for future censorship and book bans that prevent teachings on topics like race and gender. The families of 9 victims of the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting have agreed to a substantial settlement against a gun maker after a rifle was used to kill 20 first graders and 6 educators back in 2012. Remington, which made the AR-15 style rifle used in the massacre, will pay $73 million to the families. They say the company should have never sold such a dangerous weapon to the public, while Remington argued that there was no evidence to establish that its marketing had anything to do with the shooting. The case may provide a roadmap for victims of other mass shootings to circumvent the federal law and sue the makers of firearms. One of the 3 former Minneapolis police officers charged with violating George Floyd's civil rights testified in his own defense today. Tu Tao said that he had a different role during the incident as crowd control and didn't provide care to Floyd because he assumed the other officers were providing care. Defense attorneys are seeking to show that the Minneapolis Police Department provided inadequate training and taught cadets to obey superiors. Derek Chauvin, who was convicted of state murder and manslaughter charges last year, was the most senior officer at the scene. Funeral plans have been set for Amir Locke. Mourners will gather Thursday in Minneapolis. The 22-year-old man was shot by Minneapolis police executing a search warrant earlier this month. The service will be held in the church that hosted Dante Wright's funeral last April. Reverend Al Sharpton, who also officiated Wright's funeral, will preside. A SWAT team member shot Locke on February 2nd as officers were serving a search warrant in a St. Paul homicide case. Well, Valley News Live is once again teaming up with Make-A-Wish North Dakota for its Wishes in Flight Miles for Smiles drive. Air travel is the largest expense of the chapter's annual wish budget, but you can help next week by donating your unused air miles to help Make-A-Wish give dream vacations to children diagnosed with critical illnesses. We spoke with a Make-A-Wish family about their inspiring journey, and we invite you to join us. We'll have that story for you later on Valley News Live at 6.